What's up, Otakus? It's your tour guide here. Hope you guys had a fantastic week. Um, it was a good week for me. As you know, I'm still recovering. I'm taking time to recover. I don't know if even after my medical leave, I'll be fully recovered. Um, I'm working with my doctor, and we're just kind of entering the rehabilitation and pain management phase. So, um, we're just taking it day by day, but so far, I haven't felt better since the accident. So yeah, just kind of not being at work, being able to kind of rest, um, get some exercise in, and do all those kinds of things have helped. Uh, but next week, as you know, I mentioned I'm taking an online course next week. And we kind of had orientation today, but next week is like when we fully jump in and start the course. And hey, what's up? What's up, fanboy? Happy Friday, dude. Um, I saw your haul video from Ekman's. Man, that's my kind of haul, man. Nice and precise and not spending a lot. Love it, man. Enjoyed it. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, yeah. Sit back, get some work done, and just tune in. I'll try to be as descriptive as I can. So, yeah, as you know, again, I'm taking an online course next week to get certified for teaching English. Should we transition back to Japan? It is an investment for my future career. Whether we go back sooner, meaning in the next year or so, or later after like I retire from life here, kind of just retirement in general, I can kind of keep income coming in when I'm in Japan through teaching and having something to do. Because I think teaching is one of those things you can do kind of in your later years as well. So hopefully I stay healthy enough to be able to do that and enjoy that. I do enjoy teaching. I used to teach English when I was in Japan, and I really enjoyed it. I look back on it now, like there were times when it was hard because we had to kind of work um, on the weekends and do things like that. That wasn't cool, but for the most part, the engaging with the people, the students, a couple of them are just etched into my brain because of the wonderful conversations and how we get to know one another during the course of a class. So supervillain team up, interesting. Yes, we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. Welcome, Gordon. Looks like you're new to the stream. Welcome. So we're gonna get to our top 10. But again, next week we start online courses. So right now, I'm gonna try to keep doing the Otaku Weekly on Friday, weekly top 10 on Friday. I don't know how my Mondays are gonna be. So we may vacillate between either doing it Sunday night or Monday night. Oh, you have been here before. Okay, Gordon. Sorry for that. So yeah, it's gonna either vacillate between Monday or Sunday, depending on my workload. If I have a lot of stuff from the weekend that I haven't finished, then obviously Sunday might be a little difficult. And vice versa. If Mondays, like I get a lot of assignments, which I think there are daily assignments, so I will have assignments on Monday. So it's kind of like playing it by ear. If I get my assignments done, maybe I'll pop on. If I don't, we'll just push it back a week. So over the next 4 weeks, it's a 4 week course. Our Monday schedule and even Friday, depending on what our workload looks like on Fridays, um, might be uh, it might be inconsistent in terms of the when we go on. So, all right, today we're going over the top 10 news, and you know what? Comic book news wise, it hasn't really been. It's kind of been the same old, same old. You know, it hasn't. Nothing really major has been announced. It is the Super Bowl this weekend, so I think we have a lot of upcoming trailers, you know, for upcoming movies dropping. Apparently, Avengers Doomsday does not have a trailer scheduled for Super Bowl Sunday, but I find that suspect. I think maybe there will be something. Hey, what's up, Ron? uh, you're not still napping, huh? I'll try to be as entertaining as I can. Um, but yeah, news wise, it's been rather sort of quiet. Nothing. Yeah, new haircut. I gave myself a nice little side cut. It's not the you know I just I don't like paying like $30 for someone to mess up my hair. I'd rather mess up my hair for free. So that's kind of what you're looking at. Not too bad, I guess. There's a little issue there, but um all right, I gotta play some of these comments, man. Here we go. And Ron's you're not old, Ron. Come on. None of everybody's young at heart in this in the comic book community. Right? That's exactly. Hey, how did you know, man? That's exactly. Well, I did a kind of a 4 to 5 on top, and then a 2 on the sides. But that's good advice. Yeah, I'll try to. I'll try to do a little bit tighter next time. And cool. All right, Leah. We've got a top 10 list here for you, and a lot of it's kind of rehashing what we've covered because again, there's been nothing new, but we did get a few tidbits, and one kind of big. It just recently, I mean, it just the news broke. I think yesterday, maybe today or yesterday. It just recently broke, so we'll get into that as we get into the list. And so let's get started here with number 10. And what's been interesting is, again, it's Super Bowl weekend this Sunday. And there are a bunch of trailers and, with upcoming movie season coming up, we're already into February. Can you believe that, guys? It's 2026 hasn't slowed down for anybody. It's we're already into February, and I believe what's on deck first is the Star Wars movie. That's coming up real soon. We're talking about Mandalorian and Grogu, and what's interesting about that project is there's a bunch of streaming shows launching as well. Like Ashoka is set to do its next run, I believe. There's another series that's in the works as well. That's related to the rebels, or maybe that's being introduced in Ashoka. But anyway, there's a couple projects, and then there's been some news with Dave Filoni taking over. I believe he's the president of the Star Wars division, and then they announced a new CEO who's taking over Disney, and they announced another executive who's overseeing the Star Wars. I think it's like Lucasfilm or something like that. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of transition happening over at Disney and the Star Wars IP. And Disney realizes they dropped the ball with the whole, post trilogy debacle, and they are trying to right the ship with that. And I think right now the person to do it, and they've even talked about like potentially just erasing, like somehow erasing the Daisy Ridley series, and kind of maybe redoing the timeline in some form or manner. But we'll have to see how that goes, because basically they killed off Han Solo, Princess Leia, they killed off Luke. I mean, it was just poorly managed and handled. And I think that's what happens when you put non-Star Wars people to do Star Wars stuff. So that's kind of what you had with J.J. Abrams, and the executive they had there previously. So it was pretty poorly executed and planned. So, but we'll see. We'll see how the next chapter goes. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of Star Wars related projects in the mix. And, again, I love Star Wars. It really is, I think, if you talk from a IP standpoint, I mean, Star Wars was the biggest thing during my childhood. I mean, it was literally my movie, right? It was the movie that came out. I was like 8 when Return of the Jedi came out, so like all the toys leading up to that. No, wait, what year? Yeah, I was in 3rd grade, so that would have made me 83 I would have been 9. I was 9 years old when Jedi came out. And so Empire, it was what, like 7 or so. And Star Wars, I was a little too young. I do remember the toys and all that, but I was just never saw Star Wars in the theaters. But I had read enough books and played with the toys and kind of knew all the characters. Saw, like C-3PO and R2-D2 on Sesame Street and all that. So, yeah, I was no stranger to Star Wars. But yeah. Is Wonder Man good? Okay. I haven't heard. I haven't been too interested in the Wonder Man series, but then again, I don't have Disney Plus or any of that kind of stuff. So, that's the movie then. Yeah, Starfighter. That's coming out. I am looking forward to that too, as well. Again, I think Star Wars is, as long as you're doing it right, you know what I mean? As long as you're doing Star Wars right. And you got to remember the tone of the first trilogy and the tone of the prequels, they were different. it was like a different. I think a lot of that had to do with the advancements in CGI, the fact that they were in two different time periods, but whatever that difference was, it worked for me at least. It was they were kind of like their own like siloed, even though it was one continuous story. It was like you had the trilogy, original trilogy, then you had the prequels, and that's what you should call them. You shouldn't call them like the first three episodes or the middle three episodes. It's um the trilogy, prequels, and I guess the last three just would say the post trilogy movies. But anyway, but one thing they did have in common is like that Lucas formula. Like you introduce, you've got a story that people are following, and you're just kind of like hanging on how's this gonna, how's this gonna transition and end. It really was treated like a chapter, like you're reading chapters, right? The characters were introduced in one, and then you had something they overcame in the second, and then the third you had some huge kind of battle um, that kind of left you with some big resolution. And the big resolution in the third movie was, of course, the rise of Vader, right? We see Anakin make the transition to becoming Vader. So, and that's something that was like poorly done in the post trilogy. It just like, yeah, I know they got to the introducing the characters part. That was kind of what kept people like, oh, okay, this might be good. This could be good. And then the second just was absolute garbage, and then the third got even worse. So it just was like this cascading, like it just didn't have any real anything to stand, no legs to stand on. So that was unfortunate. Rogue Squadron, in the Starfighter one, maybe it'll be the this is the thing, like where, because Rogue Squadron is a rebel squadron, right? And it'll be interesting to see like when the Empire is defeated, there's no need for a rebellion. I mean, I guess you'd have like a new republic type army, but the military, there's no really need for it unless again there's a new threat, and then you have those kinds of systems and I guess defense systems in place. So Rogue Squadron, that'd be kind of cool to see, like either its evolution or how they manage that. But yeah. Oh, you're asking me if the Star Wars? Yeah, there's their first appearance in comics is around there. I think I have to check, but it's a good issue to have, the one with the AT-AT walkers in that series. All right, but yeah, no, I just thought I'd just kind of flip out and I did not get this at Half Price Books. This is just the outer case here. This book I got gifted to me by my Hyung Namanhyung, and it was signed by, book was off his David Nakayama's website, and really cool #1 issue here, variant edition here of Obi-Wan. I think they're going to probably do more stuff with Obi-Wan as well. So I think they're going to really hone in on this inter like prequel to trilogy period, where you have a sort of an Ashoka in the mix. You have well, no, let's take that back. Let's walk that back a little bit. It'll be, I guess, yeah, it's you have an Ahsoka in the mix, a young Ashoka in the mix. You have aging Obi-Wan, and you have Darth Maul, and you have yeah, that's the other series, Darth Maul, right? Darth Maul's getting his own animated series as well. That'd be cool. So a lot of things to look forward to on the Star Wars front. Hey, what's up, man? You got No Good Comics in the house? How you doing? I'm doing well, brother. Hope you're doing well too. I always enjoy your posts and comments and your videos as well. Thanks for popping in. So we've got number 9 on the list, and this was the book I was actually trying to show off last week for the top 10 when again there were some kind of teases and drops that Gambit would be in the mix. There was also drops that there was like Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Mystique. These are all characters that are going to be at the forefront of the X-Men team. One thing we did not see was any indication of a Jubilee or a Psylocke. And that doesn't have me concerned. It just is, those are two quote unquote Asian characters. And so I'm hoping that Asian representation is there. But they just haven't, you know what I mean? They're like kind of keeping it under wraps, because when Jubilee is announced, that'll be like a huge, that'll be a huge drop. I think a lot of people would be like really excited about that, as well as, of course, Psylocke. But Psylocke's been introduced, and I think Olivia Munn is the best Psylocke that we've ever had, and that will probably ever be, because she not only nailed the look in the last X-Men movie, she kind of knew the character. I just felt like she had the character. Now, I can't speak to other aspects of the film, but the Psylocke portion of the film was super dead on. So, and I don't think they're going to bring her back because she's had 2 kids, and not to say she can't come back to a role like that after 2 kids, but we know Psylocke, and I think if they do Psylocke with the Fox kind of older crew, I hope they do bring in somebody, but it'll be tough to. Olivia Munn will be a tough act to follow. Let's just put it that way. Because she just like hit it out of the park with her portrayal. Yeah. Oh, all right, cool. Yeah, this is again, Gambit's coming. I think as far as like the 90s team, you want to probably see Cable, right? You want to see Cable as a big part of this X-Men team. You want to see Gambit. You want to see Bishop. We saw Bishop kind of in a cameo role in one of the previous X-Men movies, but we need to see Bishop, like his whole backstory, along with, fighting alongside this team here. And then Jubilee and Psylocke. So, the whole 90s crew, they have to incorporate that, because if you're introducing Cyclops in the 90s suit, it doesn't make sense. I mean, this right here makes sense. You're going to have Flying Rogue probably for the first time, right? And then we're going to get the rest of the characters. And anything short of that, in my view, anything short of that is a fail. It's a fail. It's Kevin Feige not understanding, right? And he has a tendency to do that. I think he has a tendency to take stuff from comic books, but adapt them for the movies. And sometimes you do need to do more than that, which is why you have this disjointed Marvel, right? You have a disjointed Marvel because from day one you didn't say, okay, let's really be thoughtful about the characters and the timelines and all that. Now what Feige's having to do is blow it all up, and then post Feige, there's hopefully going to be an actual Marvel integrated timeline where everybody's there, everybody's interacting as they are in the comics, right? So that's something we need to stay on top of, right? There's a bunch of Marvel stuff that we haven't seen. I'm thinking of some old school stuff like Cloak and Dagger, right? We haven't seen the X-Force. I mean, they killed off the X-Force essentially, which is, why would you do that? Why would you kill off X-Force? And the Cable, I'm sorry, nothing against Josh Brolin, but Josh Brolin was not Cable. You got to make Cable a lot more. You got to make him bigger. You got to make him smarter. And you got to make him just really like a compelling character. And I don't know, Josh Brolin just brought too much, like, I don't know, Josh Brolin to the mix. I don't. X-Men romance comics. That's a good one. I think a lot of people would watch that. Just watching like a romantic sitcom about partners with superpowers, right? It's like, you didn't do the dishes, and they just go to battle. Something like that. It's kind of most marriages, right? All right. What do we got next? Number 8 on the list, because the black suit is coming. This is really a popular cover, John Byrne cover, and it's because it's just this. I think this is like one of the first like negative space covers ever done, if not the first, right? And it's like the perfect way to do it, just black and white. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful to look at. This is definitely a must have. I have 2 copies. I have one, a direct edition in like near mint condition, high grade. And then this one I believe I paid like $1 for this, $1 or $2 for this. And this is my newsstand edition with like creases and stuff, but I don't really mind too much about that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are newsstand edition. I just like the newsstands. I try to collect newsstands over direct. But yeah, there you go. Tom Holland and Spider-Man continue to be kind of at the forefront, along with Miles, right? We got Miles stuff coming in the pipe, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds. Too many titles that I agree. Yeah, there's too many titles these days. I think right now the way DC is really kicking Marvel's butt in the comic arena, I think Marvel has to do kind of like a reset. I don't know I haven't read too many like of the Ultimate X-Men and all that kind of stuff, but it just seems like people are kind of tired of this like, having everything, every other issue be like a Wolverine, Deadpool kind of reliant uh, series versus just the tried and true, right? So we'll just have to see how that all works itself out. I don't know. I haven't read a real recent Daredevil comic, but I would imagine the Daredevil comics are kind of trying to mimic what's going on with the show, and looks like people love the show because it's ultra violent, and if it's anything like the previous show, the previous Netflix series was, oh my god, it was so good. Entire arc with the Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and well, I didn't watch too much of the Iron Fist portion, but really enjoyed the Jessica Jones series. That had me on. But Daredevil, man, the way it ended with the whole Elektra, you know, kind of the death of Elektra and everything. That was, and then her being teased that she's coming back. Like we haven't really had any indication that that's going to happen. Maybe that will happen or that won't in this new season, but we know Bullseye is coming. We know they're teasing someone else. I forget, but yeah, Daredevil comics, man. Old school comics are good, but the I haven't read any of the new stuff. I imagine there's a lot that's happened to Matt Murdock in the comics as well. So we'll see how that works itself out as well. But yeah, Marvel's kind of in a little comic sales slump. As I mentioned last time, 2025 top books sales were all DC. One crossover book for a couple crossover books that kept Marvel on the list of top 50, but it was overwhelmingly DC across the board. So Jim Lee's doing something right over there, and Marvel needs to Marvel needs to kind of pivot and give fans what they want. Okay, yeah, Foggy was a big part of the original Netflix. I don't know what happened. I think he ended up just kind of quitting the firm and going somewhere. He wasn't killed, I don't believe, but he's definitely a big part of that little crew that they had. I don't know what if they kept what's her name, Karen Carp, what's her name, the lawyer, if they kept the love interest there, but I think Matt's got a new love interest, if I'm not mistaken. He's always fallen in and out of love with people, you know, which is understandable, right? He kind of goes after I mean, Elektra messed him up pretty badly, right? He was really oh, he faked his death. Okay. Yeah, and they kept Karen. Is that her name? Karen? No. What is it? Let's say it's Karen Page. Anyway, she's a hottie. The actress that played the okay. Yeah, she's still in it, I would imagine. Or maybe she's not. Maybe she made some cameos and then they wrote her off. But I hope they bring that little crew back. That was good stuff right there. Yeah, all right, there we go. But it's gonna be, like if they're bringing in Bullseye, and I think there was some indication that the Hand is going to be there, and then you throw Punisher into the mix. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do there with the Hand, Punisher, Bullseye, and again, I believe they should bring Elektra back and just make her like freaking like evil and crazy, right? Uh, that would just be a good way to kind of like reach a climax of the series. But that has yet to be seen. We can only hope and dream, right? That's what this channel is. It's to kind of like hope and dream about stuff we want to see versus stuff we actually get. All right, so what are we on here? We got 1, 2, 3. This is number 7 on the list. Wait. Am I messing up here? Yeah, no, this is 7 on the list. And the reason I wanted to share this one is because there doesn't seem to be a real consensus on Superman's who Superman's top villains are. Like, I think there's a pretty good consensus. Like, if you were to do a top 10 list of like Batman's top villains, I think when you get to like the top 5, there's generally like a consensus, right? Like who the top 5 are, or at least who the top 1 is, right? Most people are going to say Joker for Batman. And for Superman, most people would say Lex Luthor. But what I was surprised, well, at least that's what I would assume, right? Lex Luthor is sort of the ultimate. He's the Superman's ultimate foe or nemesis. But surprisingly, there's not much consensus on Superman's, and I don't know why that is. I think why it is because Superman's fandom has been so disjointed. And what I mean by that is like you have a lot of older Superman fans before the Reeve movie. Like we're talking about actual like old school like comic book readers that grew up reading like Superman comics. So from like Gold and Silver Age on, these guys, you ask them and they have like all these like classic older Superman villains as Mr. Mxyzptlk. And I hate that people are calling him Mr. Mxyzptlk. It was Mxyzptlk from my generation. Mxyzptlk or something like that. And then you had Luthor. I mean, these were kind of the old school villains that we're looking at, right? Like Toyman, Brainiac. I'm forgetting some of these names there, but like Parasite, and these are kind of like the 9 deadliest foes here. I think this is like he's like the speaker or something like that. I forget what it is. It's some stupid gimmick. Maybe he's like was it the magician? Something like that. It's like he does magic or speaks or something. Maybe he's like the speech therapist, something like that. And this is the cowboy guy. He rides in on a horse and all that. I forget who this guy is. And forget who this guy is. But anyway, this is it got me. And then of course during my generation, sort of the Copper Age, like the late Bronze, Copper, and we're talking like the post Superman movie era, it was really Darkseid, the Legion of Doom, right? So you had Bizarro, and Bizarro's older school too, but Bizarro's always been there. And I don't know why he's not on this list, but you got Bizarro, you got Dark Side, of course, some other ones from my generation. You had, I think, yeah, like my generation, you saw Superman battling the likes of Captain Marvel more, right? Captain Marvel was, or Shazam, I should say, was more of a foe, like Bronze Age to Copper. They were always fighting. Um, Trying to think who else. You had, I guess, this complement as well. It's always kind of been there. Yeah, Darkseid's really the major one, right? Darkseid's the major one. You kind of had a new look Luthor, a new look Brainiac. Brainiac was kind of like more, he was still kind of this guy in the cartoons, but he also became kind of more, um, kind of like an android, like a more robotic type design and feature. Like some Batman or Superman's greatest villains. we're getting there. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, we're getting there. And then I think, again, the newer, or I should say, let's say, post comic bust, right? Post comic bust. I read the modern, I guess, the more modern age. Doomsday is definitely, and then Doomsday falls into my era as well. It's kind of, there's kind of a, because Doomsday was more like I was an adult by that point. So there's my kind of youth and childhood enemies, right? The cartoon, Hanna-Barbera cartoon era. And then you had the, of course, Doomsday, and like the likes of Cyborg Superman emerged from that. Superboy Prime is now in that mix. Lobo, not really technically an enemy, but yeah, I guess you could categorize him as an enemy. Oh, another big one during my era was General Zod, right? General Zod is like one of the main villains, and then that continued through the movies. General Zod continues to be like this, Kryptonian enemy that was thrust to the forefront because of the movies. But in comics, he wasn't all that big. But then in the comics, he became more of a used and common villain for Superman. But today, yeah, if you talk about today's like comic book version, obviously a lot of these villains have remained there, but you can definitely point to, I'm trying to think of some of the newer villains, like I think they had a new like Metallo that came out in the recent ones. They have a new kind of Doomsday as well, or they've revamped the Doomsday. There's obviously Silver Banshee. These are kind of more later, right around the Doomsday era, the modern era. Anyway, yeah, I mean, again, you have just like generations of villains that have been introduced over the years, and just depending on where kind of you land when you're like into Superman. And for me, again, that was an earlier, like post Reeve movie kind of era. I'm kind of looking some of these along with some of the ones aforementioned in the kind of copper to modern era. And then, of course, you have an entire group of people who, where the Zack Snyder movies was their introduction to Superman. So they are kind of clueless as to who Superman is. You kind of have to go to read a Superman comic to kind of reset the character in your head. But there's a lot there that was introduced as well. I think there've been a lot of like different versions of Bizarro, different versions of like, you know, villains. So yeah, Solomon Grundy, that's another one from my era, who's emerged now as like primarily a Superman. Well, actually, more like a DC kind of Justice League type villain, but definitely was associated with Superman first, right? So those are all interesting ways to look at it. But I pose to you, yeah, what are your who do you think, if we're talking about like top 10, put out a list, okay? That's my assignment to all of you watching. Put out a top 10 villains list. I'm just curious to know where you put rank or put, because I think it says a lot about, you know, your age or generation, right? And where that positions you versus just sort of an overall, like looking at the entire history and just being really objective, like, you know, just looking at the broad kind of scope and not weighing any longer jet legacy character versus a newer legacy character, but just being like, these are the best stories, these were the best sort of matchups, people who challenge Superman the most. And I think when you do it that way, like Toyman is great because he's a legacy villain, right? He's been there. He's probably outside of Lex Luthor, Toyman has really one of the longest legacies as a villain for Superman. Now, he didn't appear frequently, but in terms of his introduction, in terms of how he's been used throughout the years, you know, he's one of those legacy characters, but he would not be in my top 10. Toyman, come on. Toyman, and the guy attacked Superman with like his toys. That's just the most ridiculous kind of villain you can have in it. Just again, that's you're kind of dealing with a lot of silliness the further back you go. But you know what I mean? Like no one's beating Superman with a bunch of toys. It just doesn't make sense. And so Ultraman, that's an interesting one. Yeah, Ultraman is definitely on that list. Brainiac and Lex Luthor for sure. Ron. Yeah, you put Lois. Lois is definitely his top, his biggest arch enemy, Lois. That's a good one. But yeah, you know, I think I'm going to put out my list soon, but I got to think about it more. For me, it comes down to, you know, who's number one? Is it Doomsday or Lex? You know, you got to kind of weigh those two, but I think I'm going to lean a certain way in that debate because, yeah, I definitely. Okay. Let me just say it right out. Lex is number one. You gotta put Lex Luthor as Superman's number one arch nemesis. He's been there legacy wise. He's been there in the modern reboot. He's the first one to be introduced in the modern reboots. He's always been there. He's just a part of the landscape of Metropolis. He's been there in the television series, the movie, most of the movies. I mean, it's kind of like merged with Superman at the hip, and Gunn didn't shy away from that in his movie. And again, that fantastic portrayal of a different kind of Lex, but you know, no less evil or horrendous. in the Nicholas Holt version. But yeah, should be interesting to see how that relationship unfolds in the next one as well. So looking forward to that. All right, we're now down to number 6, right? 10, 9, 8, 10, 9, 8, 7. Okay, this is 6. This is 6 here. Green Lantern, yeah, Lanterns is back in the kind of the news. Um, just from a promotional standpoint, they released some more kind of promo images. I think we have more clarity on the timeline for the series now. It looks to be coming out sooner rather than, well, no, it's coming out um, they say like late summer or early fall. As so, we're talking about later this fall, maybe as early as late summer, right? For the Green Lantern movie or series. So that'll be cool. Now I'm showing this off because I just recently picked this up in a trade, and man, it's a really clean newsstand copy. First appearance of the new Teen Titans. It's a preview comic, and this is just a big sort of modern grail here that I picked up, and man, was I excited to have added this to my collection. That's a big book right there. Green Lantern. First off, this is a Jim Starlin cover. I prefer Jim Starlin as a writer to him as an artist. Not to say he's not a great artist. He's definitely put out his share of cool comic book covers and has done a lot of interior work. But this cover just does not work for me. I don't know if you guys share the same sentiment, but yeah, it's a bad cover. I mean, they got all this border action stuff coming here, which is a kind of, what you kind of saw during a lot of this was like late Bronze Age sort of DC trying to kind of like get more, I guess, marketable. Whatever. It's not just a horrible cover though. Um, it's classic in the sense that it's the era, but there's a lot of reading going on here that you just don't want to do on a cover. So that is that. But yeah, again, we're getting the lanterns. I think everybody's excited. There's a lot of speculation as to who and what will be in the Lantern series. Everybody's expecting Sinestro at some point, so I'm sure that's there. If not in this series, at least season 2, right? He'd probably be teased right at the end of season 1, and then season 2 is when you maybe get him full on. But should be interesting. Hey, what's up, Jens? What's up, man? So this Jens looks like he found me. How you doing, man? He's the guy in our community that traded with me. So we are the ones that traded. I went over the details of the trade in a previous video, so Jens, feel free to check that out. But yeah, man, it was great to meet you, and I'm looking forward to just hanging out with you and doing more stuff with you, man. Don't have too many guys that are very close to me locally. So I've only really got like you and 2 other guys that I have kind of done trades with and have hung out in terms of getting books and stuff that are near me. So always glad to meet people passionate about comic books. And how's everything going with the pressing and stuff? Are you going to submit some books? Hopefully you're still there. Mr. McSopick is a real challenge. Yes. And I like the way they approach him in the comics, the modern comics. They really have him as like this dimensional being that just kind of like pops in and pops out. I think that's exactly the way they should create the character for the movies. Just bring a lot of silliness, bring a lot of like humor, and kind of just have him be this annoying, right? This He's not really bad, right? He's not really a bad guy. He tends to threaten to do a lot of bad things, but he causes a lot of mischief, right? That's more really what he's about. He's about kind of just being an annoying, you know, being in Superman's like bothering Superman whenever he comes under Earth. He's just trying to get in his hair and create as much chaos as possible until Superman gets him to say his name backwards. And that's always a fun way. That's always the fun thing about the comics. Like how is he going to get him to say his name backwards? And they always trick him into doing something, but usually ends up with him like reading some kind of message and like, oh, I just said it, and like you tricked me. And it's again, I don't think you could do it too many times in the movies and whatnot, but definitely you could definitely have sort of a movie where he's introduced and cause a lot of chaos, and then he's gone, hopefully for a while. So, oh yeah. Hope you're enjoying those books, man. Yeah. I know there's a lot of books there to kind of go through, but again, there are a couple there that if you grade and they come back, like the first Jubilee, I think that could come back a 9.8. So, I don't even think that one needs a press. It'll definitely come back at 9.6. The question is whether it'll come back at 9.8. And the thing about CGC, and this is something, Jens, you have to keep in mind, CGC, oftentimes on a first submission, it's really hard to get 9.8s on a first submission. It'll usually take maybe a couple submissions, and maybe some modern books that are really just kind of fresh off the stand type submissions where you'll start to see 9.8s. But the more and more you submit, the more kind of, I guess, I don't want to say lenient, but the more they tend to give you better grades. At least that's kind of been what I've seen. So like, it's kind of like a volume thing. The more you kind of like submit to them and more consistent it is, kind of like the comic book shops, they tend to kind of give you, they lean toward giving you more lenient grades versus like a first submission where they're probably just going to be very, not strict, but just be less apt to give you sort of the 9.8s. So if it is a 9.8 book, even on the first submission, you probably don't want to do that. You probably want to submit, maybe some older books where you just are trying to get good, higher end grades. Do that a couple times, and then maybe on the third or fourth submission, just really, that's when you want to probably kind of submit as many, like filter them in. Like, this is my third submission. I'm filtering in a couple potential 9.8s. Fourth submission, adding a couple potential 9.8s, and then you should probably see better results there. That's my advice. I don't slab and do all that, but again, CGC is a business, right? They want to get you to continue to submit with them, and so right off the bat, they're gonna just not give you ideal grades in the hopes that you'll kind of crack and resubmit or do all that kind of stuff. And they kind of track what you're doing with the books, so if they keep seeing the same books come in, they know you're a cracker and resubmitter, versus just a standard, hey, I'm just cycling in books every now and then. And then that's even better. So if you're consistently sending them books on a regular basis, eventually they kind of keep you hooked with giving you the occasional 9.8 and the higher end grades. So there's a little bit of unfortunately, it's not completely objective in that sense. You see a lot of gift grades and that kind of thing going on. So um, again, something to think about. Don't send in too many of the 9.8 potentials right away. Just send in what you want to grade, and then later in like second or third submissions, it's probably the best time to submit like a high grade book then. All right, what are we on now? We're on number 5. Number 5 on the list, we've got Supergirl. Supergirl remains, I think, for me, I don't know about all of you, but Supergirl remains, I think, the biggest. I guess I guess it would be Supergirl versus Doomsday, right? Those are the two big movies on the docket right now. And Doomsday comes out right at the end of the year. It's I think they've said it's like Christmas of. It's right around the Christmas or Thanksgiving. It's like November, right? Release versus this is like will be in June, right? June release. So they're really coming out at non-competing times. So they're not going to really go against each other. And I think that's smart for both of them, right? You don't want one being the unanimous loser or winner. So they're nice and spaced out. I do think both will command high box office returns. But I think right now, Supergirl, for me, is the movie I'm more excited about than Doomsday. Partly because I lean towards Superman more anyway. So for me, there's not really anything from the Marvel spectrum that can get me as hyped as the Superman stuff. So that's part of it. But anyway, whether again, I think it just leans whether you're leaning Marvel or leaning Superman, you're looking forward to either this or Doomsday, right? So that's kind of where we are at. And everything I've seen from the Supergirl movie has me really excited about the film. It looks like it's just going to be a fun, you know what I mean? Like a fun, it'll have its poignant moments, I'm sure, but it'll be just like a fun rock'em sock'em, kind of adventure ride. And so has me excited. You're going to have crypto in it. Obviously, you're going to have a new representation of Kara, the Tom King representation, which again, I've read Woman of Tomorrow. It's a great book. So if it keeps that tone, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it, especially comic book fans will enjoy it because Kara Zor-El is a beloved character. And she's always been beloved from day one in the comic books. And I don't think she's ever been, there's been some questionable like movies and stuff over the years, but in terms of like comic book fandom and everything, she's just as popular as Superman is. And so, yeah, I mean, you can't be a fan of one and not the other, in my opinion. So if you love Superman, you love Supergirl as well. So yeah, and then this is the best Supergirl cover of all time, I think. Just the way Michael Turner, the way it's, first of all, the way it's colored, the eyes, and just everything about this book is just just absolutely mesmerizing. Like it's such a beautiful cover. And, yeah, one of my favorites for sure. All right, that was number 5. We're coming in with number 4. We got Legion. Jens, I'm glad you popped in, man. Hope to see you here every Friday. It's part of our crew. Moving forward, that'll be great. So yeah, we've got Legion 89. I have this great Kevin McGuire cover of Jackson Lobo here. And yeah, talking about Lobo, right? We got the Jason Momoa Lobo still kind of at the forefront of everybody's comic book buzz right now. We just mentioned Supergirl, but I really think Lobo is going to steal the show in this one. And just what they've teased so far leads me to believe, like, yeah, Lobo's going to be sort of a fan favorite, and he's going to definitely, I think, get people talking about being excited to go see the movie and all that. So I'm really excited because Lobo's not a character that we've ever been introduced to outside of the comic books, right? He's strictly been a comic book character, and he's kind of used sporadically. He doesn't really. He's had a lot of cameos here and there. He's had, in fact, I think this is his sort of this period, this late '80s to early '90s period is really kind of where you see him utilized more in the context of the DC continuity. He really comes as a character in his own right during this period. And then, yeah, he maintains that sort of like popularity as kind of this really powerful bounty hunter who has a penchant for chaos and disaster, right? It's kind of one of those like really tough, no holds barred kind of space pirates, I guess you'd call them. Something, like a space punk rock alien kind of character. Kind of has a weird set of values and morals there to guide him. Really a self-interest type character, but entertaining as well. And so I think a character that just a lot of people kind of can identify with in a lot of ways, right? Just sort of this outsider kind of play, goes to the beat of his own drum type of character. So we always love characters like that. So that'll be interesting to see how they expand on it. So there's your Lobo book of the week. That's our number 4 book. Was that 4 or 3? That was 4, right? No, it's 3. That was number 3 book, right? Let me just count them again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, so that was our 4 book. I'm lacking a book here. I guess I'll go with this book here. All right, number 3 on our list is Magneto. All right, the reason I have Magneto on my list is recent news. we know Magneto is going to be in the Doomsday movie. Okay, we know that. But it looks like they're pitting up Magneto to be a combatant. Like, kind of, you're going to see a Doom versus Magneto. And this was kind of what happened was, I think Ian McKellen in an interview kind of said there's going to be this huge battle where they destroy New Jersey or something like that. Like, he gave away a huge sort of plot point. And then that got the internet going like, oh my gosh, Magneto versus Doom, right? It's just going to be a huge battle between these two. Like, they're the A villains. They're the A-list villains for Marvel. So with that being said, I just wanted to, like, this is my best Magneto cover here. Jim Lee classic. This is the D cover, connecting cover for X-Men 1. Got it in my signed copy here. Just fantastic Magneto cover. And of course, number 2 on our list, this is their actual first supervillain team up. So yeah, Gordon, if you're still around, man, you called it. Gordon called this book, and what a fantastic book it is. It's a John Byrne, early John Byrne cover at Marvel, but it's also, again, Doom. You got him right here. I mean, how often? I think this is the only time you actually see Doom and Magneto here in the comic box here. And yeah, this is it. This is Magneto has dared to challenge me, bow slaves, and show him Earth's true master. So he's obviously got the Avengers kind of defeated and enslaved here, and Magneto's next. So yeah, we've got a good comic book little legacy here that we should see play out in the Doomsday movie, and I'm kind of excited about that, to be honest. And I didn't foresee that coming. I didn't predict it. I mean, I saw it as a possibility, but I didn't think it would actually be something we'd see in movies. But if that's the case, I'm just really glad I got this book when I did. But at the time I got this book, this was, I think, 2 summers ago. I just got this because it was such a cool John Byrne cover. And I said, man, and I think I got it for like $8 or something like that. Kind of a fine VF copy here we have. But man, I'm glad I picked this up, because if that is the case, if we see Doom versus Magneto on the big screen, and like a big kind of like, how big these two are going to battle, right? They're going to battle it's going to be a battle royale, as big as like comic book Marvel type battles get. And who knows? I mean, I think you're going to see something surprising happen there in the battle, and we will see how that ends. But I think for all intents and purposes, Doom will prevail, and Magneto probably does something where he just sacrifices himself for the greater good. But we'll see how that turns out. So that is our number 2 book. All right, rolling down to number 1. Drum roll, please. This is your number 1 book, and this one Fanboy called this one, because Batman is Superman's number 1 nemesis. He's his number 1 public enemy, number 1, right? Batman gets all the comic book fan love, where Superman doesn't, and Superman hates that and decides, okay, we don't need Batman anymore. And no. So why is this book number one on the list? We just had a recent sale, and it was one of those weird. Again, it was another. It was an auction this time. I think it was an auction, and you know how instead of auctioning up one book, sometimes they auction up a set of books. Like you have to get both books, right? But they auctioned up a pair, and what it was a Batman number one paired with a Superman number one. And I think the Superman book is the highest grade that was on record prior to the most recent Superman sale, which was like a 9.0 or 9.2 or something like that. And the one that sold recently was 8.5. So prior to the 9.0 copy, the highest copy was a 8.5. So that came to market, and then the highest graded Batman comic, or is it the second? Yeah, no, it's the highest graded Batman one comic. That one was graded at like a 9.0 or 9.2 or something like that, something ridiculous for Golden Age book. So the pair of those just recently sold on auction, Heritage Auction, for $13 million. Okay. Now it didn't quite exceed the so it matched. Sorry, no. Action Comics won the 9.8 copy? It's a 9.6 or something. 9.4. It was a 9.4 copy. Action 1 sold for $15 million. The Superman 1 and Batman 1 combination sold for $13 million. Now, when you look at the two books, you can't really say it's a even split. You can't say, oh, the Batman garnered, half of that 13 million. So what, 6.5? And then the Superman got 6.5. I mean, I guess technically you could look at it that way, right? Like the Batman book was 6.5 and the Superman book was 6.5 million. But no, I think you got to look at it more like, because the Superman book recently sold for $9 million for the 9.0 copy, was it? 9.4 copy. And, that's $9 million right there. So an 8.5, I think you could legitimately say, okay, you're probably going to give around 8 million of that 13 to Superman and the remaining 5 million to Batman. So that's how I would split it. It's probably more like an 8.5 sale for those two copies. But nonetheless, even 5 million for Batman 1, that's, I believe, would be the highest recorded Batman sale of all time. And yeah, that's what you get when you have the highest graded Batman comic in existence. So it was a huge sale. I mean, we've been having these mega record sales. We don't know who the buyers are. They're just these, like, again, I think they're, if you ask me, I think they're Warner Brother executives, or somebody in the movie industry that's got a lot to benefit from this kind of news, right? This kind of PR. But to have two Superman ones and an Action Comics one come to market in a span of since the movie, right? Since the movie released, you've had three sales of Superman, high-grade rare Superman books sell for record prices. it kind of doesn't smell right, one, but two, also indicates that the market uh, for Superman books is shifting. So whether you feel like, um, whether you feel like Superman books are worth more now than they were previously or not, um, that's irrelevant. When you have sales like these, think of it as like, you know, uh, high tide raises all ships, right? So this kind of sale definitely elevates comic book sales in general, in general. But then when you kind of tier the more specific stuff, a lot of the high grade golden age books, right, are going to go up in value, right? The rare books are going to go up in value based on a sale like this. And the next thing you're going to see are like, again, Superman books. Superman books like this are going to be impacted. And so, um, yeah, I think across the board, you'll start to see people, target Superman books, target older Superman books, I think. And then, um, you know, kind of like it'll just create, not to say like everything's going to be like $1 million or anything. No, nothing like that. What you're going to start to see is like what were traditionally like maybe $3, $5 books. Those will go up to $10. And what were traditionally $20 books will go up to like $40, maybe even as high as 50. But what you're going to see is you're just going to see an overall kind of market being advanced towards certain books that directly are associated with these high-end sales. So we know the Superman IP is very strong right now. We know these sort of higher end graded kind of books that are rare, that are those are just going through the roof right now, I think. So I think right now, the the company most benefiting from this kind of news, or the three companies I should say benefiting from this kind of news: one, DC Comics; two, CGC; and then three, like Warner Brothers and the Hollywood studios that have Superman content kind of lined up for the next 3 to 5 years. So, with that being said, because it was a Batman Superman dual sale, I had to do a dual cover here, and this list has been pretty Jim Lee centric. I think we've had two Jim Lee books, just two books from Jim Lee. So not Jim Lee centric, but Jim Lee signatures all around. This is my triple signed. We got Jim, Scott, Alex on a real classic Superman Batman cover. In fact, this might be like one of the best. This is probably the best dual cover, right? Come on. I know all you Batman fans are going, no. But think about it. Batman wins this little, in the inside of this book, Batman prevails. So, there's no reason to poo-poo on this book, even though he's kind of getting mauled here on the cover. This goes to show you, like, in a real battle, Batman doesn't stand a chance. So, the only reason Batman breathes and lives is because they're actually friends, right? They're best friends. But yeah, I mean, if it were an actual Superman versus Batman would not last more than a few seconds. Okay. Unless he had like a kryptonite armor on or something like unless he's cheating like that. Batman is like any other mortal. against Superman. It just does not stand a freaking chance. So let's just clear all that stuff out. I know, like that's the fun of comic books, right? You can kind of like postulate, oh, well, if this happened and that happened, Batman might stand like a 3% chance. No. Let's not do crazy talk here. Okay. In no circumstance outside of the ones written in comic books, where Batman's, gifted a kryptonite ring by Superman himself, saying, "Hey, man, if I ever get out of hand, I trust you to keep me in line." Right? Like that's the real juxta of the story here. Not that they're fighting or anything, but if they were truly fighting, I mean, come on, it just would be over very quickly. All right, so that is our top 10 list for this week, and we're gonna end it. We're gonna end it at that. So hope you guys had fun, and hope you had a great week. Have a great weekend. Jens, man, great meeting you again. Shout out to you. Great to see you, Ron, Fanboy, as always. You guys are the regulars. Gordon, I will remember you next time. Sorry for forgetting you. And of course, we got No Good Comics who joined us. Great to see you, pal. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. So take care. Peace out. See you next time.